All right, guys, more wheels, tires, and fender flare stuff. Yippee! All right, so the tires I went with, these are the Ventus RS4s. In tires, there's a number. They call it the UTQG. Don't ask me what that's an acronym for, because I don't know or care. But I do know there's a number associated with it, usually a 3-digit number, and then some letters, A, B, or C. So the lower the number, the more sticky, the less tread life you're going to have from them because of that sticky compound, so they're going to wear out faster. The higher, obviously, is the opposite of that. So these are rated at 200. Now, in the realm of tires, that's about as low as it gets, next to drag slicks. These are considered something like a DOT legal slick. I think the other one was a BF Goodrich Comp TA or something like that. It's what it is. I mean, the tread depth is 9/32. Now, that's common on most passenger tires. You get between 9 and 11/32 tread life. Now, this car is not a car that's going to be driven 14,000 mile average like most cars are annually. So I'm not too concerned about, having to replace these tires anytime soon. Obviously, burnouts and things like that help shorten the life of these things. But yeah, outside of that, they'll meet the need. Now, obviously went with these because I had some traction concerns. When going with this smaller diameter wheel and tire, how much of that will change first gear and power application? Well, the tires are going to spin up faster because the RPMs it's like changing a gear, basically. So having the stickier tires will help offset that. So that's all we went with. So now on these tires, for that size, 15x8, there's a great calculator. I'll put it in the description below. Man, it shows you pictures of your tire 1, tire 2 on the rim and stuff, and it shows you the height difference, width difference, all the differences that really go in and help you decide on the correct tire. It's all the site has will answer all the questions you would want to ask somebody about whether or not that'll fit on your car. So I'll include that in the description below. So these tires are the ones we went with. Again, Hankook Ventus RS4. The tire size, you might have saw it on there. It's a 245/40 and of course 15. I think the speed rating, I think it's a W, if I remember right. Let me see. Oh yeah, sure. So it's a W. 80. Yes. Let me see here, because now it's got me wondering. Yeah. So it's a 88W is the for load and speed rating. So obviously perfectly fine for the car. The wheels, McCoy. So I got 3 more of the Bassett wheels and the fender flares. Now, obviously, like if you remember, I said I went with these fender flares because they have the nice slope to them, which they do. Now, this is just mocked up here with tape. I love blue tape. Y'all have seen it before. 4 inches coming out. Now, the one thing that I wasn't sure about, I didn't even actually look at it, to be honest with you, so I can't be upset with anyone but myself. But these things, I don't know what cars, I mean, it's a universal one. So, yeah, I mean, they extend further down, way further down than what I was hoping they would. So I was hoping they would terminate right there close to above where the lip kit starts. So I could just, blend them in right there. Now, these can be blended in, and not naturally they're going to have to be. I might cut a 2 or 3 inch, 4 inch, 5 inch, whatever I need to do, section out of it. And since it's the same width, pretty much all around the flare, I'll just cut a 3 or 4 inch section out and bring that bottom part up so I have that finished end still on there, and then just surgically fiberglass it back on both sides. And I'm going to have to follow the contour. Saturn's got this little valley here, body line, that I'm going to need to contour the flare to. Same thing on this side. I'm going to need to do something about it right here. And then of course you can see how far it goes down to the lip. I may not have to shorten it too much over here. It's still going to have to be contoured to fit this gape here. So, but now the game plan is, so as we talked, it's 15 by 8 wheels with a 3-inch backspace. If you notice, well, the quality of these things. Looking at this one, you can see it has a nice gloss finish. Now this is ABS plastic. The other ones I have are fiberglass, and we walk over here and check those out. They're obviously not as nicely finished here where you'd put your hardware, your securing hardware. On the inside, of course, it's all fiberglass. Very lightweight, and to be honest with you, I would have used these if they had maintained this width all the way around. The bonus we have in using the other flares I've gone with, this vertical lip right here, it's like a finished end. The other one has not only that, but then it curls back under and does a horizontal finished piece as well. And it's not crucial, but the cool thing is when you're looking at these, say, you know, when the car is on the ground lowered, and you look down from that side and you're able to see that edge, it's finished. You know, it has that finished look to it. It adds a little bit of dynamic to it in fashioning it to where it'll actually mate up, like fill in the gape there. But it is what it is. So they're much better quality, and like I said, it gives me the shoulder that I want, the flare. Now in the back, the tire, the wheel rather, I've got the spacers off on all four because I needed to get a good baseline of where, you know, if I did need to use a spacer, how much, and so I couldn't answer that if these are still on there. These, I know for a fact, kicked out the wheel further than what was going to be acceptable. So I can't use these, and these are 1.5 inches, I believe. So they're made by H&R, that people that make the springs do a lot for BMWs and stuff like that. Would you believe a set of these are $280? Now they have varying sizes, 20 millimeter, 30 millimeter, 35 millimeter, 40, and so forth. The challenge is when you need a spacer lower or not as wide as this one, naturally how these mount is the holes here, they go on your stock studs, and then this nut screws down onto that. And by the way, before I forget, always tighten those down 80-90 foot-pounds, and I put Loctite on mine. Yeah, so do that for safety's sake. But these are hub-centric type ones. That's important. H&R has a separate piece here. I don't know why they do that. A lot of them just come as one unit, but they still have that hub lip right here to help center the wheel. So like I was saying, you put these on the stock studs, you tighten them down, and then of course you put the wheel on this and tighten it down. When you go lower than this, if you think about it, you know, the stud is going to stick up that much. And so if we set this right here, if we were to put a smaller spacer on here, now this is recessed in there, so you know there is that to consider. But the thing is, hand out the way, that you're going to have, if you go with something, say half this height, when this, and not counting the machined face in there, this will probably be sitting about right here once it's tightened down onto the stud. Well, you'll have some studs sticking up out of this hole. Well, you can't have that because the wheel's not going to mount flush on this. It has to. So what does that mean? That means you're going to have to grind off as much as you need the factory stud, so that when you put your spacer on there, none of this is sticking up out of this hole, and that way your wheel can sit on it. So I think I've done some checks. I think I'm going to need half that width to get this wheel to come further out. Now again, keeping in mind, here's this finished face, and then it comes under, and there's another equal width finished face under here. You can see it obviously right there. So keeping that in mind, that's going to dictate what width spacer I go with. How do I know that? Well, the key here is, now if I've ordered all these three wheels, they're all the same size, all the same backspace, 3-inch. So it's a 15 by 8 with a 3-inch backspace. Let's say if I were to mount all four right now, and then come to find out on the front, when I turn, it's hitting somewhere, somehow. And if I'd have went with, say, a 4-inch backspace, something that would put it further, or put the wheel kind of closer in, then it wouldn't have. Well, I've already mounted the tires to the wheels. You can't return them. So the only location where this is going to be an issue naturally is up here. So I'm going to mount two tomorrow and then come put them on the car, and then I'll mock hang the fender flare. Now, hanging it like that's not really giving me a true determination on whether it'll hit or not, but it's going to give me a great idea whether or not it's going to hit. Now, the other element that comes in is how far up do I mount the flare? Well, judging by that one back there, and judging by the height, the overall height of the wheel and tire once it's on, I'm pretty much going to have to mount it at the very last point here, right here. Because if I mount it further up, then this is going to be showing. I'd have to come in here and cut this out so you wouldn't see it. If you look in here, as it sits now, and of course if we look up under here, you know, you're not going to see this as the car's lowered on the ground and this is sitting here like that. But you can see now I have it mounted about my thumb up. So right now I have this flare mounted about that high up. So the flare line is right here. I can go lower with that, obviously. But I tried to find a point where I could go low enough to not show the inner fender, go low enough to miss this gas door relief, but then not go so low that this extended so far down that, you know, it's going to change things quite a bit. So all that's going to have to be worked. The trick is I have to be very careful with these and how I do it and how I edit them, because they're $260 for a pair, and I don't want to mess one up. I don't know if they'd sell me one or not, but I guess that's an email question away. But I'd hate to just, you know, do that. So I'm not a body man, haven't done too much of that, but the mindset is you just have to be careful, take off as little material as you can at a time, because you can't, as they say, you can't put on material. You can take it off, but you can't put it on. So just very carefully. Now, before any of that would happen, I'm going to know whether or not we're hitting up here, how low I need to bring that down. Because now, the reason I keep referencing back there, let's say that with the rim and tire on here, I've got it as low as I can go to avoid contact with left and right turning. Well, if as low as I can go still has that much wheel well, I need to lower the fender flare down to cover that wheel well up. Down as low as I can go, that still will not cause any kind of turn issues up here in contact. Not just statically. In other words, not just mounting the tires and wheels on here, taking the weight, you know, getting it off the jack stands, putting it on the floor and testing it. But as it's turned either left or right, full turn, maybe get on the frame of the car and jump up and down to simulate hitting potholes and stuff, to just make double sure that I won't hit then. You know, cars look great when they're lowered with airbags and stuff on the floor, and they're tucked up underneath, but obviously those guys don't drive that like that down the road. So I'm going to have to find the happy compromise, because I don't have bags on this thing. And of course, the other provision to think about is Of course, these fender flares are going to be mounted permanently. I say permanently. I could take them off. I'll show you the mounting hardware that comes with these things in a moment. But if I don't want to take these off all the way every single time, I might need to take the bumper off. Then you could make the cut line here, and more than likely I would have it come down here like this. So it'd be a straight line off that, so that you could then take this piece off with the bumper if you need to. So in the front, the consideration is here on the emblem, you know, it's low enough below the emblem, don't have to worry about that. On the front here, and of course this can be played with, this just shy or just touching the turn signal housing. So I may be able to push it back just a little bit to clear that, so I don't even have to mess with anything like that. But same scenario up here. If I got to take the front bumper off, which is more likely, I would come here where the line ends and then just straight shot it down, so that this is now a part, this section cut here is now a part of the front bumper. So as I take that off, this piece comes off with it. The hardware, so they send this, you know, hardware with it. These are the little anchor nuts that you drill a hole for and you slide them in there. It's got little splines on here that will go, obviously slide into the body. And then of course they send the finishing washer and the bolts. And these are stainless steel, and that's pretty critical to have stainless steel components, because as rain happens over time, they'll rust and start looking pretty nasty. They also send this seal material. This is going to go in between the fender flare and the body of the car to give it kind of like a finished look. And of course it has 3M tape on the inside there to mount securely. Of course you got some stickers in there and all that good stuff. So that's the hardware side of it, and that comes with a set of 2. And because I ordered 4, they included all the hardware and stuff all together. All right, 2 are mounted. So just again to show you, I knew that the tires would be extended out some because the rim is wider than 9 inches. I'm sorry, 8 inches. So once it did stretch the tire just a little bit, but not a whole lot. If I situate this correctly, like bring this tire in just a little bit, maybe just a hair bit more. There we go. It's not that much wider. I mean, and the reason I say that is because it's not going to be something that is just excessively wide that won't fit. And of course, height comparison again. And of course, the wheel's backwards, but yeah, quite a size difference there. So let's put it on. Initial thoughts are that I'm not going to need any spacers. Let me turn the light on here if I can. All right. So even now, keep in mind this is sticking out farther on the bottom because we haven't had the opportunity to obviously change that to make it contour the car. But coming up really where it's more true is on the top here. And if we just kind of use this vertical plane as we go past the vertical plane to where it disappears right there. So really, remember, we have to keep in mind this this lip here. This is your, you can call it your horizontal lip. Vertical, horizontal. It's right in there. I don't think I'm going to need spacers at all. Now this is still up in there. I'm going to lower it down. But initial indications that we're going to be okay. Now I'm going to get it on the ground and turn the wheels left and right, see what we got, and see if that changes anything. And then here, this is how far it sticks out with the fender flare off. So yeah, it does stick out maybe a ½ inch more each side than what the wheel was sticking out. That's without the flare on it. Okay, so with limited space here to really get a good vantage point, like from a pure side to side, I've got to do this at a 45-degree angle just because of garage space. I dropped it down. I had to put in, because remember we only mounted 2 in case I got to return a couple of them for the front because of turn radius and such. So I've got the stock ones back, or the ones I had on there before. And of course these are taller, so overall the ride height's going to be quite a bit lower once these are on the other tires. Well, not necessarily. I'll lower the rear, obviously, because then I'll have the room to lower it, because the overall tire height's different. So that being said, just having these things just taped on here like that, it doesn't do much for the imagination of how the thing's actually going to look. But what it does do is it gives me an idea of turn radius for the stock fenders internal. Now, as I mentioned, the ride height here is going to depend on where the factory lip of the fender's at. So it's right there, right here, up above my finger. So I've got quite a bit of room up there, so I can lower this even more. So it's going to be lowered for sure, maybe a couple inches. That will then, and I'm going to do that today, because with my kind of gross placement of the fender flare, I'm going to need to know how low I can lower it, clear the factory fender inside, the factory interior fender liner, clear the lip kit, and then at max turn radius, where will I contact here? Okay. And of course I'm going to have to make sure I keep in mind that this is not in its permanent location. I can cut it and it can come up like I talked about the other section of the video. So I can make it shorter so it'll come up higher and maybe terminate closer to where the lip kit is at on the stock bumper, stock fascia. So, but I don't think I'm going to need, once I pull in that rear back there, and if we use this more as a guide, I don't think I'm going to need any spacers at all. On the back, as long as I clear the bump and all the stuff we just talked about, I could go a hair bit wider on that to give it a little bit wider back. Not too aggressive on that, but I've got 2 or 4 5mm spacers over there that are not hub centric, and I could see how much lug stud I have sticking out once I put these on there. So I would have 2 of these in the back. But again, if it's not so egregious or whatever, I think it won't change it that much. I won't mess with it. I'll have all my lug studs to hold on to. But wow, I like how that looks. Even with it not being finished, I kind of start seeing what it'll look like. So, all right, we're going to check turn radius now. All right, so that little turn test is done. The only place I feel it touching barely is in the back on both sides. The front, I don't really have an issue, but I was going to put a bar, a support bar, because if you notice, if I push in on this, there's no support because all the undercar structure that was there is gone. It's been gone for some time. I'm going to create a rod. When I do that, if I use that rod, I'm going to pull this out some, and that'll remove any chance of that hitting. Back here, I can work with that. That's with a grinder. And then I think the ride height on it, of course, sitting here looking at it almost eye level, it makes it look taller than it is. Of course, as I work with these, I'm going to be bending these in. I'm going to try to heat these up and see if I can't get them to bend in a little bit to give me more of a rounded touch. And I've kind of already decided, I think for these, especially in the back here, I don't really want to deal with trying to contour this rounded portion, then this little indentation here. I think I'm just going to section this. I'll probably section several inches out of this portion here. This will then bring this up, and I want this tip to terminate right here, where the lip kit's at. And so this will be higher up, so I don't have to worry about, you know, doing anything with this down here. It's all going to just be contoured to the curve of this, and then the little indentation here, and that'll raise it up far enough so I don't have to do that. And kind of same thing in the front. I'm going to section it to where this part here ends right here. Okay, so yes, I'll have to contour it here, and I'm going to see if I bend this in a little bit, it starts to clear that. I got to work to where it clears that, and it doesn't hit the emblems back here. So that's what I'm ending up doing. I'm going to end up sectioning it to bring it up. Once I do that, I'm going to try to like bow it, like take both ends and pull them together so this becomes more of a circle. And so I'm going to have to be very careful how I do this, because all of this depends on final placement for drilling my holes for my hardware. I saw a guy online, he strongly recommends to drill them one at a time instead of putting it on here, drilling all your holes, putting all your anchors in there, and then when you go to put it up on here, you put this one in first, you go to put this one in, and it's off. Same thing with the rest of them. So he recommends to go ahead and just put them in one at a time. Mark them, drill them, put them in one at a time. And so that's what I'm ending up doing. And so that'll be helpful as after I do my cutting and stuff to get this positioned correctly, because at that point I'm going to have it close enough to where I can sit here and take this flare and clockwise it, counterclockwise it to get the position just right. Then I'll mark how high up I want it, and then I'll mark my first hole, drill through there, get that first hole, and go ahead and set that set in just one right after another. Then put the seal on there, and that should be it. I'm going to run like this for a while, just see if there's any problems, and then make edits as I have to. But as far as this back portion here, I'm going to get creative with that and see what I can do. It's really at that pinch weld point, if you know what I'm talking about. The pinch weld in here. All right, there, that's better. The light here, the pinch point, I'm going to use this other light too. It's that section right there. That's where it's contacting. And so yeah, I'll have to get in there and do some cutting, probably cut this little section out right there, just beyond the lip kit, and then grind down that pinch weld right there. And of course, when you do that, of course, make sure you go back in with some like silicone sealer and stuff to keep water from getting up inside that edge. Be very careful with that so you don't get all a bunch of rust up inside there. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That's where I'm going to be attacking it to get it to not hit. And I won't have to go too far up that, just enough to keep it from touching the tire. So maybe about right up to here, right where that little hole's at right there, just even with that. Now on the balancing portion of it, remember I told you when you got to get a machine that has the fingers that go inside the holes for the lug nuts. Well, I purposely took it to my shop, my old shop, and had them balance it because they had that fixture. Well, I don't know if it was user error or what, but he doesn't use it that much. He said it was wobbling, so he just balanced it normal. And so I've got some lip weights here, and there's a lip weight inside. If that's the case, and the reason I say if, the place that I'm going to now, the guy that owns the shop, he worked for Hunter Engineering for 20 years. And so those are the people that make the balance machines and the alignment machines and stuff like that, and sell them and service them and all that. So I'm positive that he's probably got the latest and greatest balancing machine. I haven't seen it yet. I'll see it Monday. But if you know, worst comes to worst, then of course I'll balance it, take these off. I didn't want these on there. I wanted sticky weights inside, and of course I wanted it balanced right. Now it said it balanced it out, but Bassett Wheels was adamant that if you're going to balance these wheels, than tires, then you need to use that apparatus. So I may have to go up this again, but nevertheless, this was good enough to get it. I intend to drive on this thing anyway for some time until I get the lip kit and the fender flares all worked out. So that's just a note there. If I do have to keep these, then I'll tape them off and paint them gloss black and stuff, so they don't detract too much from the look of the wheel. And then of course I'm going to look for some wheel caps. Bogart Racing, that's these. They've got some wheel caps. I could get those, scuff them up, paint them black, whatever color I want. I could even put the Saturn logo on there in red, so it complement the red ring. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I changed my mind so much, but anyway. So there you go, wheels, tires, fender flares. Not my favorite thing to do. I wanted to do it. I'm doing it, and I'll get through it. The heat kills me. I guess kind of like the cold did, but yeah, the heat's a little bit better. Good news is I got a job. I couldn't wait on my old boss any longer. I mean, with all kinds of talks about stimulus, no stimulus, unemployment benefits, the enhanced ending, then they're not ending. There's just too many variables. I'd love to wait him out, but I got a family to take care of. So I start this Monday after the 4th. Pretty much. The good news is I'm making $10,000 more a year than what I was before, and it's 30 minutes down the road instead of almost an hour. So that's beneficial. It's a one store going to a 2-store chain. That's why I'm being hired to run this store while the boss gets the other store up and going. And I don't know, 2-store, 4-store, 6-store, $1. Don't really matter. It's a popular national chain, so looking forward to it. Looking to finally get back to work and feel like I'm contributing to society. Being on unemployment sucked. I mean, yeah, you can say, well, since March 21st, I've been on a vacation, but I haven't been able to relax mentally to really take advantage of that vacation. So anybody that can do that and stay on unemployment for months on end, years on end, I don't know how you do it. Everybody's different. I'm not knocking anybody. If you've got to be on it, you've got to be on it. But I don't know. And to be out there actively looking for work with never fully intending to go to work, it's a shame, man. But that's our welfare state. It's there if you need it, and that's wonderful. But at some point, you got to pull up your pants, put on your boots, and go out there and make a life. And if the money is the same that you would make on unemployment, that you would make on a job, take the job. You never know where that's going to lead you. You may get promoted to manager if you do your job 100%. You may meet someone that likes you, wants you to come on with them at somewhere else, but at least you're out there. And the self-respect that you get by working, maybe I'm talking to people who don't care. I don't know. But there are people that definitely need to be on it. I needed to be on it. There's a lot of people that need to be on it right now. And I just hope this all gets back to some type of normal here sooner than later. But yeah, God blessed me with this job, and I'm so thankful to be able to just work again. Love working. I haven't been unemployed since 1 month after the Army. I got out of the Army. I said, I must have slept probably 3 days in a row. I was just finally done with all that. And so about 30 days later, my mom kind of asked me, son, you got any ideas about what you're going to do? So in other words, you're not sitting your butt here all day. So about 30 days, I've been employed ever since, here, there, somewhere else. But I got to work. I need to work. And so yeah, I'm happy about that, and appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm sure this is stuff that some people find interesting and other people could care less. They're probably more into the turbo stuff. Speaking of that, the Unichip is next after this. Again, like we were talking about, I need to drive it some to get some answers. I'm going to watch the scan tool while it's driving to get some baselines on different readings and stuff that I'll want before I swap over to the Unichip. But that is next. We're going to get that done. And then, like I said, I'm pretty much convinced the 95 Saturn's getting the K24, K20 in it. It's going to be boosted. And so I've already posted on some forums to kind of start planning for that. But that's going to be my last project. And I don't know. It's just one of those things that's got to end sometime. But that'll be the last hurrah, my last fun thing to do with these cars. And then I'll just enjoy them. That's it. Nothing new under the sun. All right, thanks.